candidates were each asked to submit 5 questions. They did so. We shared with each of the candidates the submissions that they respectively put in. The format today will be 3 minutes for the original candidate's question to be answered, 3 minutes for the alternate candidate to answer, and then 1 minute for a rebuttal. So that's kind of how it works. I would be remiss if I didn't share the following. We're here living in a gifted city of West Linn. We have 2 individuals that are sitting up here that have put themselves out there and are willing to serve our community. Regardless of whether or not you agree or disagree with what they have to say, we are here to be educated, we are here to learn, and we are here to be respectful of their comments and their commentary and perspectives, so that in the short term that we're here over the next hour, each of them can be heard and we can listen. There'll be a chance for audience participation at the end of the hour, where we'll have a breakout session for each candidate. Thank you. In the process, we have a coin that on the 4-way test that we alluded to. And on that coin, it says service above self. And I want to make sure that we each are all here gathered today to know that we're serving. All of us are serving here, and that life is better when we serve. Because Councilor Thomas Frank is President of the City Council, we've asked him to call it heads or tails, just like we'll have in a sporting event. We'll let that person decide whether to go first or second. Would you like to call? Heads would be the 4-way test. Tails would be the Rotary elbow.
I'll call heads.
Tails. Tails. So you get to choose if you want to go first or second.
I'll go first.
Awesome. Let the fun begin.
Do I get to use the mic?
First, I want to make sure the audience knows the question.
Oh, sorry.
It would be beneficial. Mr. Russell Axelrod, first question. Explain.
It's this one. We don't have
Introduction. We'll do introductions.
Yeah.
I'm lost here.
Well, there wasn't introductions on there. We're going right into the
Yeah,
questions.
we're
We have
going-
a follow-up. That's what
Yeah.
we're supposed to do.
I thought we had an introduction, questions.
Moderator says we're going to go right into the
All right.
questions. Here we go. Explain how your work experience has prepared you to be mayor.
Thank you. Well, I'm not a DJ, but does this sound okay for everybody?
Yeah.
Good. Our mayor should be a seasoned project planner, skilled collaborator, and an effective leader. These are characteristics I have achieved in my work experience. I have an master's degree in geology. I'm a professional registered geologist in Oregon, a licensed geologist, hydrogeologist in the state of Washington. I have been practicing for more than 30 years on a great diversity of projects across the United States, including Northern Europe and the Middle East. A significant portion of my work has involved investigation of cleanup sites in the Northwest, including the Hanford Nuclear Reservation and our own Willamette River. I've conducted watershed assessments, and I've had the opportunity to work closely with tribes in my work. My work is inherently multidisciplinary, bringing together scientists, planners, and engineers. Team building is really at the core of what I do. I have collaborated with a variety of clients, both small business and large business, including General Electric, Emation, 3M, for which I've represented and worked nationally. And I've worked for utilities in both the private and public sectors. My experience includes negotiating with state and federal regulators, business owners, other professionals, attorneys, and sometimes public interest groups, special interest groups. My work is about bringing diverse perspectives together to achieve common goals and objectives. This often requires consensus building with different personalities and strong risk management skills. And I want to emphasize strong risk management in that. My work requires technical understanding on a range of topics and the ability to evaluate alternative approaches to meet various standards and goals. I've also had the opportunity to be a regional manager for a major technical analysis firm based in Lake Oswego. And those required responsibilities include such things as technical oversight, business development, staff management and recruiting, financial tracking, and integration of business with other regional offices and staff across the U.S. and in foreign offices. I have experience with code writing important to city work. It includes preparation of the first groundwater protection plan for the city of Tacoma and assistance to the city of West Linn in updating its water resource area code revisions to bring them up to code to current standards and regulations or requirements. This work, coupled with my experience on the Planning Commission and understanding of our codes and our city needs, is a great benefit to the city. Finally, I've opened my own small business, operated my own small business as a consultant since 2007, and I know and understand personally the challenges of small businesses trying to make ends meet and raise a family. As a local business owner and a 24-year resident, I want our city to be successful. In summary, I clearly have the demonstrated experience in project planning, expertise, in collaboration and leadership skills to serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frank.
Thank you. This is my third year on City Council, and I'm honored to be serving you as your council president. Without an actual mayor right now, I have been serving us since February as more or less the acting mayor. I have a bachelor's degree in finance and an MBA from the University of Portland. I also serve our community as a teacher at area colleges and universities, teaching business, finance, and accounting. This gives me the perspective to manage all types of personalities, the ability to work in teams, and to be fair and firm with outcomes. I bring a financial perspective to be sure that all decisions are fiscally sound. I've served on a variety of boards, Planning Commission, Chair of the Budget Committee, Transportation Advisory Board, and others. I listen to all sides. I am diplomatic in conflict resolutions and maintain a strong ethical and public service core values. I serve our community as the president of St. Vincent de Paul West Linn Conference. I lead a group of volunteers giving our residents emergency food, utility, and rent assistance throughout the year. In the past 6 years, I have traveled to every neighborhood in West Linn, and we have served thousands of families. Finally, as councilor, I've been elected to the board of directors of the League of Oregon Cities, and I represent all 242 cities to save. I've also been appointed to the National League of Cities, Small Cities Steering Committee, representing all 19,000 plus cities to Congress and the White House. These are the few of the qualifications I have to be your next mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. 1 minute rebuttal.
Thank you, Councilor Frank. I want to make one correction, I think, to the record. That is, we've agreed to move forward as a council, a 4-person council. You're not really the acting mayor, but that's okay. You are the council president, and I respect that very much. And I just want to say I look forward to working with you to utilize especially your financial skills and capabilities as we work on the budget and all the financial requirements that we have. So I look forward to that.
Thank you, Councilor. Next question, Councilor Frank will address. What community and elected positions have you held, and why are they important?
This is important because experience matters. We have all seen how inexperienced leaders can take the city down a wrong path and jeopardize our relationships with other jurisdictions and partners. Mayor Dodds and Galley are prime examples of this. Having the perspective and relationships with other cities through the League of Oregon Cities and the National League of Cities gives me the perspective of best practices, modeling of what works and what doesn't. It's best for us to learn from others of what worked. This makes our efforts more efficient and effective for our citizens, overall maximizing our taxpayer value.
Thank you. Would you like to address that?
The question is what a community elected position should become more important, right? Okay, great. I've lived in West Linn for 24 years now. Brought up two great, beautiful girls in our school system. For us, it was Cedar Oak, Rosemont Ridge, and the West Linn High School. So we've been, and me personally too, of course, very active in our school community for more than 20 years. Be it from education, music, dance, theater, sports. Sports are big in this town. For our girls, it was soccer. And they played soccer all the way up into high school. And both of my wife and I were youth soccer coaches. But that common engagement, that community engagement through our children, through the schools, is perhaps for me one of the most important experiences I've had, and that's helped shape me and what I feel is important in the positions I've carried forward. When my oldest daughter was getting ready to go to college, I got a little more involved in the community, and I volunteered with the Three Rivers Land Conservancy. Some of you probably are familiar with the organization. They later became Columbia Land Trust. And I worked with a 5-person team, and we planned, designed, and built the Rosemont Trail. And I hope everyone has had the opportunity to see the Rosemont Trail, to experience the Rosemont Trail. It's a pathway connecting West Linn to Lake Oswego over at Lucia's Farms through a beautiful part of the Stafford Basin. And to me, that speaks to what I'm about, is about connections. And when I see people out experiencing that and the feedback I've gotten from the community on that pathway and what it means to the community, that's the kind of enrichment, and that's what really drives me to want to get more involved in community and to support community and help build community. From that, while I was doing that work, the city asked me to help with the Water Resource Area Code revisions, which I mentioned earlier, and then they asked me to be on the Planning Commission. I served on the Planning Commission for 3 years, where I became vice chair, and then onto the City Council, of course. Throughout this period, too, I've also been very active in the West Linn Wilsonville CREST program, which is the Jane Goodall Science Program, and I'm proud to say that for the last several years, I am the head science judge for the special awards for the kids. And that is probably one of my greatest days of my life. The kids, working with the kids and their enthusiasm is just tremendous. So currently in my role on the council, I serve on different boards and commissions, the South Fork Water Board, where I can apply my expertise on water resource issues. I'm involved in the Heritage, both coalition and LOCS groups, Parks and Rec, sustainability, the Neighborhood Association presidents, and I'm also participating, very interested in the cycle track program, which we have going for Highway 43. Collectively, these city positions are important because I understand a lot of how the city works, and I see my time is up.
Thank you very much. For those who are not aware, just so everybody knows we're being fair, there is Dan Gardner is keeping time, and there's a 3 minutes hard stop. Next question, Councilor. Oh, rebuttal. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, rebuttal.
Councilor Thomas Frank.
I applaud Councilor Axelrod's involvement in schools, and I will be there as well. My oldest daughter is going to start kindergarten this fall over at Sunset, so we're excited to get a part of that into that realm. However, this job is a mayor's job, and I think it's important to see that we have a mayoral candidate that has connections within the community itself, beyond the schools, and that's what I think.
Thank you. Next question, Councilor Axelrod will address. What is and isn't working in the area of economic development in West Linn, and how would you support the local business community?
Thank you. When evaluating economic development in West Linn, we must consider our unique geography and infrastructure. One of the greatest challenges we have in West Linn is, we have 4 disconnected business districts, and we're separated by large, steep hills. I had a great discussion with a local developer last weekend, going door to door, and this is about kind of where downtown is in West Linn, and he said it best. He said, "There is no there there." I've begun to reach out to local business districts and discuss concerns with several in Robinwood, and I've been working closely with the Main Street Board in Willamette, where I've personally taken to rescue the farmers market under a modified venue, theme, and plan, working closely with business owners. I have assisted Main Street with a survey they will soon receive, and I intend to personally reach out to other business areas. The city is preparing its own outreach plan in this regard, and I think it's important that we very carefully listen to our local business interests because they know what's best for them. I don't want to tell them what to do, but I do want to better facilitate their needs and remove unnecessary roadblocks where it may make sense. From my perspective as a citizen, planning commissioner, and now a councilor, I am overall very disappointed in our economic development efforts by our city. For several years, the plan has centered on infill development, largely residential, and streamlining codes to shorten developer requirements, in part by limiting citizen involvement, and in my opinion, that is not economic development. Two key issues are how can we help existing businesses and how can we draw the kinds of businesses we want to attract to West Linn. You've heard me mention community-based planning before, and I continue to embrace the concept and the plan to meet with business owners and property owners and neighborhood associations and work together to update our business sector planning to reinvigorate them in the neighborhood experience. I think the Main Street model or village concept for redevelopment best fits West Linn, and I would suggest these models as we move forward our community discussions. This may require local rezoning, for example, on the Highway 43 corridor in Robinwood, and I want to push hard for much needed improvements to 43. We also need to engage property owners in this survey or in this work so they can understand how reinvestment to improve areas benefits them long term and also reduces the burden on local businesses such as high rents that they're experiencing. This approach means we put more emphasis on going out and pursuing the businesses that we want in West Linn. For example, I've envisioned and shared with many my interest in developing a specific business area focus like Blankenship to possibly be a regional medical center office park location. I think the model fits well and could even bring businesses to actual West Linn citizens. Finally, my interest in developing the Arch Bridge is to have a strong tourism focus because I think the heritage designation is a significant opportunity, and this is what will bring money and investment and interest that will truly benefit our local businesses, as well as improve property values and the sense of place and quality for all our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Economic development has always been a struggle in West Linn. It dates back to the 2008 council, where it was made a priority. The challenge is we are a veteran community. Businesses struggle from the lack of employment lands that keep dollars here in West Linn. As I have looked and surveyed the business landscape, small businesses are the ones that struggle the most. Why? They require customers throughout the day, not just in the evenings and weekends. My vision for supporting the business community is to help brand our city, make it innovative and unique by exploring the possibility of gigabit fiber optic internet, and put together an economic SWAT team that will help retain and recruit businesses that residents would support. Also embrace the Arch Bridge concept plan to help make West Linn a unique destination to view the greatest natural asset we have, the Willamette Falls, the second largest falls in volume of water in North America behind Niagara Falls. It's a shame we can't see it today. The Arch Bridge plan was driven by a citizen committee and followed by an unprecedented public outreach. 220,000 connections were made. I am proud to announce that the Willamette Falls Heritage Area also received a state designation last Thursday. Let's capitalize on that positive momentum and move West Linn forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, a couple of things. First, I believe Niagara Falls is in Canada. Well, I think it's in the U.S. Pretty sure on that. On my geography.
Is it in North America? Is it in North America?
It's a joke. Deep breath. One of the comments you made was a lack of employment lands. There is a lack of employment lands, and that's why, Councilor Frank, I'm very shocked that just a few weeks ago you had suggested that the council rezone some of our critical OBC lands on Tandler so a speculator development could move forward to build apartments. I was very much in favor of working to create I think a business district there and working with the neighborhood in the future. I think it's really important that we do that. I think I don't really understand your point of the employment lands if you're selling out the lands that we do have. And the Arch Bridge, we'll get to the Arch Bridge in a minute, but I do believe our plan is really not honoring the heritage there, and I'll have some comments about that because I don't have time to talk about it there.
Thank you. The next question will be first addressed to Councilor Frank. Question is, who has endorsed your campaign and why is their support meaningful to the voters of West Linn?
We are all tired of the partisan politics that we see. Washington, D.C. is broken and gridlock rules. I am proud to announce that my bipartisan endorsements of current elected officials, board members, and labor. Now, if you follow the Board of County Commission at all, you'll know that it's very rare that any of them agree. But Commissioners Savas, Martha Schrader, and Chair Ludlow do agree on one thing. I am the best candidate to move West Linn forward. This position is about relationships, and I have them. Sheriff Roberts, Commissioners Ludlow, Schrader, and Savas, Senator Devlin, who is a Democrat, Representative Parrish, who is a Republican, have used their endorsements to show that they put themselves behind me and want to work with me. But it doesn't stop there. Labor also wants to work with me as well. UFCW, AFSCME, Tualatin Valley Firefighters Union, Clackamas County Peace Officers Association have all raised their hand and want to work with me too. Why is this meaningful to voters? They have had enough of partisan politics. They thirst for someone who will roll up their sleeves and get things done. I'm the only candidate that has support from Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and labor. Relationships matter. And all my supporters know I am the best person to put families first in West Linn. I am confident that voters will recognize this when they vote Thomas Frank Mayor.
I guess I get to answer it as well, right? Yes. Well, I'm tired of partisan affairs too, so I'm not introducing partisanship here, but my campaign endorsers are predominantly former city officials, councilors, mayors, some PC members, and very importantly, citizens of West Linn. Thus, my endorsements represent what I feel are more of those elected by West Linn citizens, not appointed individuals, or individuals outside of West Linn per se. I recognize that I don't have, in some cases, all of the connections, but people will get to know me, and I will be making those connections, and I can assure you that they will like me when they get to know me. The Hamlet Group is also largely supporting me because of my efforts to truly collaborate towards forging an agreement with Lake Oswego and Tualatin and the Hamlet to protect the rural character of Stafford. This is very critical to West Linn and Lake Oswego voters, and to those in Tualatin Dist as well. There are also many city advisory board members, some PC members, and NA presidents, in fact most of them, that do support me. But I don't identify them as endorsers with their titles because I feel it's the wrong thing to do. We have so many great volunteers serving us in West Linn and our boards, so much expertise and talent. We rely on our volunteer network to advise us in so many affairs that influence city policies, our infrastructure projects, and how we spend your money, taxpayer money. I think it's important that this advice is reasonably independent, objective, and free from bias as much as possible. I do not believe it's right for elected officials to ask employees to endorse election matters or candidates with their own public titles, employee titles. I also greatly respect our volunteers and the work they do and don't want them to feel pressured or uncomfortable in any way so that we don't lose the people and the volunteers coming forward. I want to see more volunteers come forward. I want to encourage them. I respect that it can be awkward for individuals to refuse inquiry from public officials, and I simply don't want them in that position. I think it's also of concern to West Linn if your principal financial supporters represent outside or perhaps special interest groups. I'm not surprised that Councilor Frank has been endorsed by many board members because they were handpicked by Councilor Frank and the outgoing council members last year. However, I am disappointed to see him use them in endorsements because I feel it's wrong, it's inconsistent with state guidelines, and it's inconsistent with the training that all West Linn employees, including myself and Councilor Frank, have been through. As mayor, I will encourage fellow councilors to refine our city policy to be very clear that current active position titles cannot be used for political advocacy in any way. Thank you.
I'll just have a quick rebuttal. I'm excited to move this city forward, and I have the endorsements from current, not former, elected officials to do just that. Thank you.
The next question will be addressed to Councilor Russell Axelrod.
Is that me?
Describe your vision for the Arch Bridge area and how the current master plan fits with that vision.
Thank you. I'll try and be quick, but I have a lot to say on this topic. Last week, as Councilor Frank mentioned, the Oregon Heritage Commission would approve the Willamette Falls as a state heritage area. We're about to go before Congress also to designate the Willamette Falls and surrounding communities a national heritage area. This will be the first west of the Mississippi. We are currently also coordinating with Senator Merkley's office, and the federal recognition is starting to receive attention in Washington, D.C. These are really significant and important developments for West Linn, Oregon City, and our entire region. Just last week, I toured the Blue Heron property with Oregon City Planning and learned more about the Willamette Falls Legacy Project and their vision for addressing the beauty and heritage on their side of the river, and I was really impressed. Last year, our council quickly processed a development plan for our side of the river, also known as the Arch Bridge area. The plan for the central area looks like any small cityscape with a car-centric design, traffic lights, some large tall buildings, and a tiny square with a few benches for sitting in the shadow of the buildings. Every time I see the cover of the project plan, I admire the beauty of the view of the historic bridge arching into West Linn. And then I cringe at the thought of the entrance to West Linn being a wall of 6-story buildings burying the splendor and historic significance of the bridge and the river setting. That's not the entrance to West Linn that I want to see. And it's not the vision of West Linn that a majority of the people I talk to want to see, including citizens that I've talked to in Oregon City. West Linn needs a plan that embraces the history and heritage, and is sensitive to the unique geographic riverside setting. We need a location where people can gather, shop, eat, absorb cultural features, and celebrate the unique and magnificent heritage and scenery of the Willamette Falls area. A hotel and mixed use are great features to incorporate. However, the main buildings should be mostly set back from the river toward Willamette Falls Drive and I-205 in sort of an artful terrace design, I feel, surrounding a large public plaza and opening to the riverscape. I learned last week from Oregon City that the great design firms in New York that are helping Oregon City, that they're in competition, also envision an amphitheater design on their side, and they're working on that, incorporating that design. The plaza riverscape model is currently described in West Linn vision documents, and I would say that the plan is oriented towards, well, as discussed in the Bolton community plan. We should explore a plan oriented towards tourism to build upon the great heritage elements and to better integrate our plans with Oregon City. Very importantly, I think a tourism model will better serve our local businesses and will create new and exciting opportunities to better stabilize business development in West Linn. A model focused on tourism is also more likely to expand our state and federal funding. That is going to be desperately needed to support the design and infrastructure needs and to lessen financial impacts to our citizens. As a 24-year resident and lover of landscapes, West Linn deserves more. Thank you.
Axelrod and Thomas Frank.
Thank you. The Arch Bridge is truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for West Linn. We are fortunate that West Linn Paper has been willing to partner with us to allow us time to go through the master planning effort. My vision for West Linn is to finally stop turning our back to the river and finally embrace it, using our unique history and natural beauty. We are doing this by adding a public esplanade, public square, and finally siting a hotel as close as we can to the falls. A hotel once stood down at the Arch Bridge area for decades, but it was torn down to allow for additional parking. Let's take advantage of our falls and turn our town into a destination. We also heard in the incredible public outreach last year that people wanted to downsize their homes. As folks became empty nesters and their children moved off, they didn't have a need for a large yard and 4,000 square foot home any longer. But they had one challenge. They wanted to stay here in West Linn, and they had nowhere to go. Creating a mixed-use area with condos will finally give our empty nesters the opportunity to downsize and, more importantly, stay right here in West Linn. My opponent has a bizarre vision for this area. During public work sessions, he had proposed to cover over I-205 and put place development up there. He also referred to a public square that is created in the center of London back in 1840. This is simply impractical for West Linn. He doesn't consider the willingness of the private property owners to embrace this type of concept. I'm here to tell you today that they do not. Nor will the Department of Homeland Security allow any development over I-205 or any freeway for that matter. With the unprecedented public outreach and connections made, I am confident that this is the best plan for the Arch Bridge. And property owners agree, and it has been moved to the Planning Commission, and I look forward for the increased public hearings and also the council direction they will be giving us later this year.
Thank you. Wow. Well, talking to the mill is a great idea. We need to. I've already started some of that. I want to try and talk to the mill about opening the upper end of the log sorting yard so we can carry the esplanade up there. In terms of the 205 cover, I just threw it out as an option had we consider it. I'm not proposing that we build over 205. The concept of that we have a public square. The public square in the model, in the current design, is 500 square feet. You know how big 500 square feet is? It's smaller than this platform. Okay? I wouldn't call that a public meeting place for the community. I don't want to, I agree with mixed use. I would like to see mixed use down there, but it needs to be tastefully done. I don't want to see a big wall of buildings overlooking the river. We've already destroyed that landscape enough. So I'm for those uses, but more tastefully done. Large plaza is possible. In terms of my vision, bizarre vision of, I was explaining my recent travels in London, where I visited Trafalgar Square and what the unique vibration that created as an environment, and I think we can build something like that. That can be our next Pioneer Square for West Linn. I think we can have that environment here.
Thank you. The next question, we're doing okay on time. Councilor Frank will be the first to address this. Are there any misconceptions, your stance on issues you'd like to clear up?
We've all had enough of frivolous election complaint filed by my opponent's supporters, which was immediately thrown out within hours. I have knocked on thousands of doors over the past month or so, and the misconception isn't just from the elections complaint, it's also my opponent's campaign rhetoric. Let me highlight some of his campaign's false statements. 1, Arch Bridge. I have heard I'm getting money from Arch Bridge developers. That is not true. In fact, no one today is even remotely interested in developing anything down there. which is a good thing. Why? Because we have no external pressures on the project and we can plan what we want. 2, LOT vote. I voted no on LOT at the Plan Commission. My Councilor Axelrod followed me on that vote. Number 3, somehow my family's businesses are personally benefiting in West Linn or waiting to develop Stafford. Again, I have no dog in this fight, and I don't own any land in the basin, and neither does my family. As far as my family's 3rd generation contracting business is concerned, they have done one residential project in West Linn back in 2004. That's it. The only land I own in the city of West Linn is my home. Yesterday it was published in the Tidings in Oregonian. My opponent repeatedly lobbied staff and tried to receive a no-bid time and material contract for his services on several occasions in 2013. This is simply wrong. And instead of putting citizens first, he put himself first. I wonder what benefits he thinks he's going to receive now as mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Axelrod, 3 minutes.
Well, let's hit the big one first, because I have right before me here a letter from the state indicating that the accusations and ethical complaint against me was entirely baseless, I've done nothing wrong, and they're not even going to open a file on me. So this is an example of the kind of slandering that I want to stop in West Linn. So, you know, I'm sorry, but I'm a very ethical person. I've never had a complaint in my life about one thing I've done until this allegation comes up, and the state has already issued, again, I received this from my attorney this morning. I had to force me to hire my own independent counsel to defend myself and this reputation of this attack from Mr. Frank's campaign. And I regret it, and I think it's despicable. So, if you want to bring that up, I would address it. Arch Bridge from developers. My campaign is not going out and using rhetoric about, I'm sorry, maybe someone said something about the development, but my campaign is not putting out rhetoric about your building the Arch Bridge. As far as the LOT vote, I didn't follow you on the vote. In fact, if you go back and look at the testimony, I think I outlined most of the reasons and the basis for the no on LOT. Maybe there was an order and sequence we were asked, I don't know. But a couple things I want to address. One is there's this opinion out there that I'm anti-development and I'm some kind of radical left-wing activist that won't let a building be built in West Linn. And it's just so far from the truth that I cringe at the thought of it. I'm for responsible development, okay? So that means what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the time and I'm going to look at the details of a proposal. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I'm going to make sure it fits with our comp plan. I'm going to make sure it fits with our neighborhood associations. I'm going to make sure the citizens want it, and it fits in with our overall model of what we want to do, all right? And I don't think that is being obstructionist or, like I'm some crazy nut, okay? I'm trying to make sure that we spend our assets correctly and that we build our community and we protect the values and our community quality of life that all of us have come to love here in West Linn. And I've been here 24 years, and that's the last thing I want to sacrifice. There's also this rumor around that I'm truly unduly influenced by one former city official. I won't name any names, but I think many of you know who is the rumor that's out there. And I will say that I have consulted with every former attorney, every former counselor, every former planning commissioner that I can, particularly the mayors and the councilors, to learn institutional understanding from their background, what went good, what went bad, how can I learn from their mistakes and experience. All right, so I've reached out to them, but I'm not embracing their philosophy. Okay, a lot of people have said, and I'll just say it, I'm the next David Dodds. I am not the next David Dodds. And David Dodds is not a part of my campaign or part of my administration or, part of who I am and what I'm doing. So I think it's important for you to understand that. I'm done, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebuttal? No rebuttal. Next question, Councilor Axelrod will address.
I will. Yeah. Yes. Which-
What is your position on the use of public titles by city-appointed advisory board?
You know, I already addressed that kind of in the two, as see this, I was thinking was, I kind of addressed that, so I think it's kind of, I don't really have much more to say on that.
Just summarize it, please.
Maybe he can respond. I'm sorry. Let's let Councilor Frank maybe respond. Would that be a fair thing to do?
That's fine with me.
You're okay with that? Okay, thanks.
Councilor Frank.
I think the real,
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
What is your position on the use of public titles by city-appointed advisory board and commission members in political endorsements?
I think that the real issue here is that I have the endorsements of most all of the board members, and Mr. Axelrod just doesn't. I think it's important for people to have context of who their appointed members are. Just like when Sheriff Roberts, Commissioner Strader, Savas and Ludlow, Brett Parrish, and Senator Devlin use their titles to endorse me, our appointed members should be able as well. We must remember that the elections division in Salem is the one that controls the election laws. The elections board has ruled on this, and everything is above board. The people need to have context in which to make an informed decision.
You do have the option for rebuttal.
Yeah, I'm looking for some of my notes because I wanted to make sure I got.
I will tell you, my wife says, do not sing Jim, so I cannot.
Okay. Well, there's two things. We have, there is actually Kate Brown's manual, 2012 manual, restrictions on political campaigning by public employees. It's very clear. It says elected officials cannot command public employees to engage in political advocacy, and a request made, I'm quoting, a request made by an elected official is considered a command. Okay. So even, my position is, even if you want to question whether that's ethical or not, or puts them in an awkward position, I feel it does put them in an awkward position, regardless of what the states may even have as a guideline. In my planning, in my training with the city, it was that we never do it. And if you go back and look at all of our past voter pamphlets, you will always see former this, former that. You will never see the current ones in there. And so, regardless of what that might be, I think it's the wrong approach. So here's where a big difference is between myself and Councilor Frank. I will move that policy forward, and I would request that the other councilors work with me as a team on this, because I think it's important that we not bring politics into our decision-making for the city.
Thank you. The next question will be addressed first by Councilor Frank. The question is, describe how your approach to governance differs from your opponent.
Thank you. I'm a collaborative leader that listens to all sides. I will be fair and impartial with any issue that comes across my desk. I believe that we must adhere to our code and follow it. All of it. Not simply pick areas where we will waive because it is inconvenient to do so. An example of this is my opponent has suggested that we don't have to follow our own code for the Roundtable station. This approach will set the city up for lawsuits from private property owners and developers. They believe that they should have then the same special treatment we gave ourselves. I will look at all sides of an issue, consider the financial impacts to our budgets, and prioritize our projects. We can't do everything for everyone. We must govern and maximize the taxpayer value. I am committed to do just that. But don't take my word for it. Rather, it was said best by our immediate past mayor, John Kovash, and I quote, "It is evident that while Thomas Frank takes a collaborative approach, professional approach to governance, Russell Axelrod does not appear to think problems through, seems careless with public funds, and dismissive of the work of citizens and professionals." End quote.
Councilor Axelrod.
Wow. First off, on the city code for Robinwood, Councilor Frank, you should recall that I did correct what I was trying to get across in the discussion was that, not that we don't follow our code, but that some of the restrictions and requirements that were being put on the Robinwood station really aren't necessary, may not be necessary. We need to critically evaluate whether or not they're necessary. The facility has been operated as a community center for the last 50 years. And there are certain things that we should do, some things that maybe aren't needed. All I'm saying is that we, rather than putting up roadblocks of having so many restrictions that cost the city too much, let's realistically look at it and see what's needed. That's what I'm trying to do there. With regard to the Kovash quote, I'm not sure what to say about that. Kovash and I had some private conversations before he came out in the paper, and he expressed very different opinions to me privately. And when he came out in the paper, I can't answer for, but he has no basis really to make those kinds of statements because he has no experience with working with me in that regard. I think I will govern very differently. One of the things I want to do is I want to lead council more actively in the city affairs. I feel that the city manager has become a little too bit controlling in terms of the direction of our city, and I want to make sure that our council, the elected council representing the people, are helping direct the work of the city. Rubber stamping. There's been a lot of rubber stamping in the past, and one of the things, I ask a lot of questions, and I want a council to ask questions. I want to have deliberation and more discussion in public forums so that we have the proper discourse to get to our decisions. I'm tired of proposals coming from staff where they just get approved, and we don't really evaluate fully the pros and cons of proposals. So I'm going to make sure that we do that. Put us in citizens first. It's part of my catchphrase, it's part of who I am, but it really is part of who I am and who I represent. I'm not here for a future career. I'm not marching off to another position somewhere in some political arena. I'm either going to be mayor and maybe mayor for a while, and if we can really work things out, and then I'll probably retire. I'm not going on to a political position, and I think it's important if you're looking on to next additional positions, sometimes your position changes, and so I think you need to be careful about that. I was asked to run because people really wanted me to represent them, and so I feel I really do represent citizens first. I think that's probably good. Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as the council direction to staff, yes, we do give council direction to staff, and Councilor Axelrod will find this out as he gets more seasoned on the council. We do give council direction to staff on proposals and items we want to come back. They are not staff initiatives. But as Councilor Axelrod mentioned, maybe we should pull a more recent quote from somebody that has actually worked with them in the past. And I'd like to close on that from Ryerson Schwark himself. And he quotes, "As a member of the Planning Commission, and now as chair, I have worked with Russell Axelrod, and that's why I'm supporting Thomas Frank."
The next question will be addressed initially by Councilor Axelrod. This will be the last question due to time. Please explain your position on the development of Stafford, including any conflicts or potential conflicts of interest you may have with regard to your position.
Thank you. Well, it's really important that any consideration of Stafford protect citizen interests. Not only West Linn, but Lake Oswego and the hamlet as well. Any development there must be done responsibly, sustainably, and must reflect good stewardship of the landscape. Being fiscally responsible is a significant part of the consideration for any development because it's wrong and unfair for the adjacent cities to be burdened with others' development costs. This means that we must be truthful about the feasibility and costs for infrastructure. So far, the focus has been on traffic as a mitigating factor. But I have emphasized to the stakeholders that sewer and water are also paramount and should be factored with the other infrastructure. In fact, in a meeting just this last Monday, I emphasized with Lake Oswego and Tualatin the need for a more comprehensive approach when we assess potential future development of Stafford, and the other cities agreed to the approach. The Hamlet Compromise is also a very credible approach to the future Stafford, and it's supported by more than 85% of the hamlet. When you consider land use decisions, that's a pretty significantly high number. You know, when we look at proposals and things that come in the door and people talk pros and cons on projects, 85%, and I'm understanding now that if you took a vote today, would it be even higher because of some that have discussed concerns for the type of speculative development that's being proposed. And if people aren't aware of it, there's discussion by supporters of Thomas Frank's campaign. They want to put up to 20,000 people in Stafford. So when it comes to conflicts, I have no conflicts. And in fact, I would say that a very large majority of the hamlet supports me. For Frank, however, I think it's a different story. Many of his campaign endorsers and financial supporters represent politicians seeking legislative fixes to develop Stafford, which would remove the control of the cities around us to control Stafford, which means it puts cost requirements potentially on the citizens surrounding the area above what might be reasonable. Or there are major speculative landowners seeking major development proposals, and as I say, up to 20,000. So, you know, I think we're, both Thomas Frank and I represent the city on the Stafford issues. We're both going to those meetings and working together, and I hope he will stay true to the vision of West Linn, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of close to 80% of West Linn wants to keep Stafford rural. And I think until we really get ODOT and we can address our core infrastructure needs in the areas surrounding, as well as the Stafford itself, but the areas surrounding, I don't want to see this choke off and create huge problems for West Linn. So we have to go about it very carefully. Thank you.
Councilor Frank. Thank you. There are many different external pressures on the Stafford Basin area. What is clear is that these will not be going away anytime soon. And if the multiple bills proposed this year in Salem are any indication, there will only be more pressure. Now, Clackamas County is the one that controls Stafford, not West Linn, not Walton, and not Lake Oswego. We have been meeting, Councilor Axelrod and I have been meeting with the other three cities to determine what can be done and what conditions we should place on Stafford. But let me be clear. I have sat on the council for 2 years, over 2 years, supported our lawsuit and appeal with Metro, and continue to oppose development in the basin. That's my record. Mr. Axelrod, what's yours? In our latest community survey, 66% of our residents think that we should be at the table and actively planning in the region if it comes into the UGB. I agree. If we don't have a seat at the table, there will be many unintended consequences to West Linn. My concern is transportation, water, and sewer services. I-205 cannot support additional cars. Willamette Falls Drive and Borland are currently served as the third lane, if you will, to I-205 in many respects. Anything that happens in the basin needs to be conditioned on transportation and feasibility. In responding specifically to any conflicts of interest, again, I don't own nor have any interest in any property that's out of the basin area.
Thank you. Rebuttal?
Well, I think I'm pretty clear on my position on Stafford, so while I, excuse me, I haven't been on the council for 2 years, but my position on Stafford has never wavered, and so I think I'm very clear on that. I'm not sure I have to address that. I agree that pressure from the surrounding areas is great. However, we are in control of the destiny, and if we can stay united as the cities, we will remain in control, because we, the cities, even though Clackamas is going to put pressure on, we, the cities, if we can remain united in our position, I believe we can have a control on what happens there. The city, the county or the legislature is not going to start a new city, Okay, so it's really going to be up to us to show the stewardship and get together on it. And perhaps the compromise is a solution to it, where the main part of Stafford stays pretty much rural. Everyone gets something out of it. All the big speculative developers get to build some homes. Let's see, my time is up. So,
Here's the great news. There is, at the end of the questions, each mayoral candidate gets 2 minutes to summarize their closing remarks. So here you go.
thank you, and I want to thank you all for the opportunity to come speak. It's really been great, and thank you, Thomas Frank. Thank you, our wonderful chair. You've done a great job. I believe the purpose of local government is to protect the best interests of the people it serves. Citizens first. As your mayor, my top priority would be to restore our city's accountability and transparency and open up channels of dialogue that our citizens may trust in our city's leadership and decision-making process. Neighborhood associations must be protected and nurtured, and the city must approach every issue and project inclusively and openly. West Linn is brimming with smart people and creative people. Let them be heard and respected. As mayor, I will forge a balanced approach to development. This approach would focus on collaboration, maintaining quality of life, protecting schools and local businesses, and addressing our heritage and sustainability goals. Community health is at the heart of why I'm running for mayor. To me, promoting community health means protecting our great schools, which both my daughters grew up in, cultivating our parks and open spaces, and working toward walkability, bikeability. When possible, I've shown through my participation to create the Rosemont Trail. Ensuring our citizens are not only heard, but empowered to participate, I need some water, in the decision-making process, and protecting our small businesses and creating a valued environment for local economic development that reflects West Linn's unique character and attributes. I am the right mayor for West Linn because I am honest, dependable, experienced at analyzing information to make the best decision, and a compassionate leader with deep concern for the well-being of our community. I'm skilled with details and will strive for practical solutions that are fiscally responsible, while keeping the big picture in mind. The accountable, fair, and healthy West Linn we are all working toward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Frank.
Thank you. I will bring stable and fair leadership to West Linn. This election is important so we don't repeat West Linn's dark chapter of unethical leadership. I'm proud to have bipartisan support from many different elected officials that as mayor I will have relationships with. It's time that we embrace our opportunities and put families first in West Linn. It's time that we move the Arch Bridge concept plan forward. It's time that we create sidewalk and pathway connections giving priority to safe routes to school. It's time to address our aging water infrastructure responsibility. Join me in my race for mayor as I will bring stable leadership to our city and not put partisan politics ahead of our needs. Join me in my race for mayor as I will not put special interests ahead of my own. Join me in my race for mayor as I will put families first and ensure a city we can pass on to future generations. Join me in my race for mayor and let's work together making West Linn a special place we call home. Thank you to the Rotary Club, the Chamber for hosting this event, Mr. Boyle up here for being our moderator, and our timekeeper that's been very diligent down there, Mr. Gardner. And thank you all for attending. I also want to thank my thanks to Councilor Axelrod for coming today and addressing this debate.
Thank you. As we close, I too would like to express some appreciation. First, the school board candidates, Betty Reynolds and Chelsea King Mark. Thank you very much for your time. We are very fortunate to have the West Linn Chamber and the West Linn Rotary Club assist us in gaining additional insights, and I want to thank both of those two community service organizations. Thank you. I also want to, as moderator, want to sit up here and tell you how much I appreciate the audience and for your attendance and your time and your willingness to learn and listen. Thank you very much. Give yourself a round of applause. Finally, we're very fortunate to have two outstanding service-oriented individuals here that are giving themselves for the city of West Linn. Please join me in showing your appreciation for each of these two gentlemen. As a token of our appreciation, Rotary likes to give the four-way test coin, and we'd like to give one to Councilor Axelrod and Councilor Frank. Thank you so much, and we appreciate it. There will be breakout sessions for each of the two councilors at the end. Thank you so much for coming and attending. Have a great day.